in the 21st century. Hard-working people working hard for you and me. Moving higher, time and time again. Through the years you'll find us here. Moving higher.
Hello and welcome to MIP Podcast Markets with Chip Nellinger. Chip is with Blue Roof Agri-Marketing out of Morton, Illinois. And this edition of the MIP Podcast is brought to you by Dawson Tire and Wheel, your premier ag tire and wheel provider in North America, helping people grow. TractorZoom, delivering insights, and Dryshod Boots, the official work boot of the MIP Podcast. Chip, how you doing today, man?
Good. How are you doing?
Not too bad. It has been we talk about volatility, and we've had no lack of volatility over the last year, but this week has been one of those extra volatile weeks. We almost hit $2 there for a minute. Almost had $2 and a 2 in front of corn there for a minute, and this week, and then it kind of rebounded back, gained back about 20 cents or so, and today kind of slid off, and we lost about 7 or so cents on corn. So I guess as you take a look this week and kind of what all the different things that kind of came down from that, what's your reflection on this week, and kind of what do you see maybe bringing some more positivity to the table moving forward next week?
Yeah, it was each week that's gone by seems like a month. You know, we've got so much news hitting this market, and it's just like not only is it a black swan, it's a flock of black swans. So, I guess the supportive things out here would be, maybe we've seen the worst of the crude oil situation. You know, we had that front month crude oil go negative. That was a black swan in and of itself. We had the June contract that, got down into the single digits before bouncing, and it's now stabilized around $17 a barrel. And so I think that has gone a long way towards kind of stabilizing for the time being some of our markets. The grain side, we've got a pretty rapid planting pace happening there. That's kind of keeping a lid on things. The ethanol situation, even though crude oil stabilized, ethanol still has massive problems. Right now, the other black swan that's happening, you've got the Brazilian government that's kind of in a mini meltdown, and their currency just is imploding. So that, I think, probably was a lot of the reason why beans got hit today. It just seems like every other day, the Brazilian currency just is making new lows. And what that equates to is their farmers down there, their bean prices are, I believe, at all-time highs. And so they continue to sell beans. It doesn't matter what the price is here. Based on their currency exchange, they are making more money each day. Even when our beans go down a little bit, the currency fluctuation is going more in their favor. They continue to sell beans. They're selling new crop beans, and they're going to plant a lot of acres down there this fall. So that's hanging over us as well. Another big thing here this week that hit is some talk. And, I think we're all getting a little bit tired of talk, particularly when it comes from, China. But there was some talk here that China was looking to buy upwards of 20 million metric tons of corn and 10 million metric tons of beans. That's a big number on corn. Now, there are no specifics. That doesn't mean it's going to be right away. But they were kind of, out there chirping that, yes, we're going to fulfill this phase one trade deal. And so 20 million metric tons of corn is a large amount, so north of 700 million bushels. 10 million metric tons of beans would be up, around 400 million bushels. And so that was taken, I think that helped stabilize corn. And we had a nice bounce off the lows. Like you mentioned, Casey, the low for the week is 301 in May corn futures. We got up north of 320, closed the week, I believe, at 315 and 3/4. And so even though we closed lower this week compared to last Friday, we were way off the lows from earlier in the week. So we just got a lot of news hitting this market, and from every front. And you want to talk about some volatility and tough times, but yet farmers are out there planting, and that's what they've done. Good times, bad times, get the crop done, and they get the job done.
Yep. Yeah, they're really good at getting the job done for sure. So I guess as you take a look at what's going on with the wheat in some very key growing areas of the world, we're starting to see a lot of dryness. You're starting to see some support there. So I guess what's your thought with wheat, especially with the freeze damage that we've seen in the southern wheat belt?
Yeah, wheat just puked on Friday. It just downright puked on Friday, and it's hard to figure the wheat market out. You get negative news and wheat rallies. You get positive news and wheat sells off. But you're right. I mean, that is definitely something to watch. The freeze damage that happened here, we may in fact have to wait till harvest to figure out exactly how much that damage was. Mixed reviews on that as people get out and crop scouts look at that wheat crop. You definitely some damage done. Just hard to tell how much. Pretty dry in the Black Sea area and parts of Ukraine. Obviously, Australia coming off a multi-year drought there. They've got their own issues. But all that being said, wheat ends the week on a pretty sour note. So the funds are long. Some of this bullishness is built into wheat prices. And just technically, it was not a great close this week in spite of some of the friendly fundamentals we have going out there. So,
yeah, a lot of stuff going on, man. Cattle prices is another thing that was been paying a lot of close attention to with the effects that the lack of demand from restaurants and areas like that we're seeing. I guess as you take a look at the livestock areas, whether it's pork or beef, there's just no buyers right now. I mean, I guess we've got feedlots that are holding off on selling anything because it's cheaper to feed them than it is to sell them. So that's a pretty tough situation to be in.
There's your next black swan right there. So not only do we have this world pandemic, we've now spread the virus into I think at last count 10 different packing plants across the country are closed or at least way down on their kills. We can't get all the cattle killed. Basically, we're a third off of what our normal slaughter rate is. So farmers would be willing sellers of fat cattle. We just can't. There's literally no space for them, and we can't get them killed. Same thing on the hog side of the equation. It's a real problem. You've got record all-time high box beef prices because obviously we can't, with a third less kill for the last 2 weeks, there's less supply of meat. It's going higher. At the same time, the cattle feeder, the hog farmer, the poultry guy, just abysmal right now. I mean, it's the worst case scenario where you're actually having to start. And I just started hearing that this week. At the end of this week, you're seeing some ready hogs that are getting destroyed. I started hearing a week or so ago, sows being aborted, some sow slaughter. It's a mess out there. It is. It's beyond the black swan. It's the black swan on top of the black swan because all starting with this pandemic, and now you've got the packing industry. With plants idle, closed, dark. Some of them needing to get their workers back healthy before they can reopen. It is just an absolute mess on the livestock side of the equation here. So tough times. We did a week ago, Casey, and still awaiting some final details on this. But a week ago this afternoon, we did get the release or the news that there's going to be some financial support packages out here for ag, $1 billion for the livestock producer. I think $3.9 billion for the grain producer. We got some milk specific, dairy specific support in there as well. Some vegetable support. Again, we're awaiting final details on that, but again, that just tells you how bad it is. Nobody wants to have that type of a situation where we need support, government support especially. But that's the environment that we're in, unfortunately. And let's just hope that some of these plants can get opened back up, get some workers back healthy, and resume normal slaughter capacity, because we've got some big issues out here. And people are starting to see it at the grocery store. That's you got record beef prices. It gets passed on directly to the consumer. So that's another problem out there, right? 20 million plus jobless claims in the last three weeks, and people without jobs, and now meat prices, protein prices shooting through the roof, especially on the beef side. The pork and poultry are following, and it's not a good situation any way you cut it.
Yep. So the next thing that is a catastrophic mess, and there's just no end in sight for this either, is the ethanol industry. So you take a look what's going on there. There's been some, if you look at what's going on with the ag side, the ag stimulus packages and stuff that are there, there's not a lot in there for ethanol. If you take a look at what's there, there's a few things, but nothing really too creative. And with 40% of the U.S. corn crop going to ethanol, that could have some pretty big downstream effects. So I guess as you look with what's going on now with, oil prices being, they're paying you to take the barrel of oil now. I guess, what do you think about the ethanol industry, and what lies ahead for that?
Yeah, that's the $64 million question right there. I've racked my brain for the last week or 10 days. And it's a real problem. Like you said, there was not a lot of support there. There really wasn't much announced on the energy side at all. We had that cut there a couple weeks back, 10 million barrels. That wasn't enough. We're using 35 or losing 35 million barrels a day of demand, and a 10 million barrel cut just wasn't enough. And the market proved that. The market made, the hard decision to force, energy producers, crude oil producers, to cut production. When you take a barrel of oil to zero and negative, the market's gonna do the job of forcing the cuts more so than OPEC. We've seen that happen. Unfortunately, ethanol's caught in the middle, right? The oil industry can't stand the ethanol industry for years and years and years. We'd like to see the ethanol industry go broke. They may be getting their wish on that. So I think that Washington is trying to put together some sort of energy package, and I would think that that's going to include ethanol. But the real problem with that is any way you cut it, right? You could go to the standpoint, okay, ethanol, we're gonna give you guys some money, industry, we're gonna help you get whole. You keep the doors shut. Don't produce any more ethanol because we got record stocks. We can't store anymore. We're out of storage. We're out of gasoline storage. You just stay idle. We're going to give you money. Well, guess what? That doesn't work, because that's horrible for corn. So you got to throw corn, unfortunately, is in the middle of that too. And so I don't know what the answer is but just money alone doesn't solve the problem of oversupply and under-demanded markets. So I don't know, Casey. This is a real problem for corn.
Yeah.
And right now, it's estimated that 40+% of ethanol production is shut. ADM just announced yesterday afternoon they're shutting a big plant in Cedar Rapids and one in Nebraska. I believe that Cedar Rapids plant is one of the biggest ones in the country, if not the world. I think it's an older plant, maybe not the most efficient, but it's a big plant. And then they're going, they're cutting way back on their dry mill capacity. So it's not good. And you still have, production being shut down and slowed down, and, furloughing workers. Not a good situation in ethanol. I don't know what the fix is, but it really is a big, big problem for the corn market in particular. It doesn't mean we can't bounce. Doesn't mean there won't be bounces along the way. But boy, it is. There's another black swan in itself. You got ethanol, you got crude oil, you got the packing, industry, and as a byproduct, you've got corn production. Now, in that hurricane of black swans, I guess, and it's a tough time right now. But it's like a hurricane, right? We're maybe in the eye of it, and there's some more wind coming, but we will get to the other side of this eventually. And the other side of that, probably things get really good again. It's just going to take a while,
Yeah. Well, the flip side of that, this is just more evidence about showing how much we need to open the economies back up, right? I mean, my wife's had the same tank of gas in her car for going on 5 weeks now. So she hasn't. So I mean, it's one of those things. And, you run 3 kids around to school and activities and everything else that's going on, and she's the main one doing that. You take that out of the scenario when she's normally buying 1 or 1.5 tanks of fuel a week, and now she hasn't bought anything for 5 weeks. I know I'm not on an island somewhere. So this is just I think, in my opinion, whatever everyone's opinion of opening the country back up is, but this is a byproduct of lack of demand and lack of economic growth.
Yeah. And the unfortunate part is I'm the same way. I forget when this thing started, at least in Illinois. I think it was the first week of March, maybe, second week, somewhere around there. I would typically drive to the office, roughly rounding here, 60 miles a day, 5 days a week, 300 miles a week. I have, and I filled up right that same week that Illinois shut down. I've got a little over a quarter of a tank of gas left. And so, I mean, again, to your point, that is the real deal. And the problem is now as you open back up, it just snap your fingers and we're at the same, moving the engine at the same speed as we were in February. It's going to take a while trying to prove this. They're still trying to get back to normal in China, and they're a couple months on the other side of it. And so now you take that much longer to reprime the pump and get everybody back on the road and get people back to their jobs. And the sad part is that likely there's going to be businesses, there's going to be jobs that are permanently lost, businesses permanently closed that don't make it through this, people permanently, or at least for the foreseeable future, permanent job losses out of this. It's going to take a while. We're not going to just snap our fingers and be back to, 90 miles an hour like we were, first of the year.
No, it will definitely take a while. And this just won't be a quick fix. This is going to be several months to maybe even several years before it's back to normal. So, well, Chip, good stuff as usual. Folks want to reach out to you and talk about a plan and just some stuff that they're kicking around right now. What's the best way to do that?
Yeah, best way is just call our office, 309-550-7213. We're all working from home, but it rings over to the cell phone, and we'd be happy to chat with you and at least give you a second set of eyes and ears, a second opinion, and kind of see what your situation is and how you might be able to improve it at this point.
All right, on. Well, I'm Casey Seymour with Moving Iron Podcast. Make sure you check out all my social media out there at Moving Iron LLC. Also go to movingironllc.com for the latest blog post. I just posted one here last week, actually. So just popped up there. You should see another one. Probably have another one out this weekend. So check that out. Also check out Global Ag Network and all the great podcasters out there, part of that network. And last but not least, make sure you give Chip a call and follow him on Twitter. He gets every once in a while he gets a good zinger out there, so it's worth listening to. So I'm Casey Seymour for Chip Nellinger. Let's go move some iron, folks. Out.
Moving higher in the 21st century.